Agorana paro mantro nasti tatvam guru param guru charnam shiva charnam soham. So, let's see how this goes. Everything works. Maybe we can have a comment to see if you can hear properly. Okay, thank you, Viram. So, I would like to read today from the book Masters of Mahamudra, written by Keith Dowman. So, the Nath Siddha Charpati, the petrifier. It begins with a quote by the Mahasiddha Charpati. The supreme vow of all the Buddhas is nothing but self-realization. Whoever realizes the innate purity of his mind gains the same vision as all the Buddhas. Buddha means awakened consciousness, enlightened consciousness. Okay. In a certain district of Magadha, there lived a wealthy herdsman. He owned 1,000 water buffalo and vast herds of sheep and horses. When his aged father died, he gave a great feast for the entire district, a feast lasting many days and remembered thereafter for the fine food and deliciouses that were served. Early one morning, before the feast ended, the family and guests went down to the Ganges to bathe, leaving the herdsman's young wife and her child in charge of the house. During her family's absence, the Guru Charbaripa materialized before the young woman and asked for food. But the wife was afraid of her husband's wrath. If your husband or mother in law are angry with you for entertaining me, come to my forest hermitage on the hill over there. You can see my fire from here. The yogin reassured her, if they are not angry, so much better. Please give me some food. Then the woman gave him food and listened happily to his conversation. Shortly after the yogin departed, the mother in law returned, and seeing the remains of a meal, a little food remaining in the house, she began to berate her. The young wife, in her turn, became angry, and she fled to Charbaripa's hermitage with her child. Well done, said the yogin in welcome, and he sprinkled her and the child with consecrated water that miraculously turned them into stone images of the Buddha. Thus they were no longer in need of food or provisions. Meanwhile, the husband returned home and asked for his wife. She has simply vanished, they told him, but persevering in his inquiries, he discovered where she had gone and in his um, pursued her to the yogin's retreat. There he received the same consecration by sprinkling of water, and he too was changed into a Buddha image. The Guru placed the three of them together on a single couch. When their family and friends began to arrive in search of them, some alone, some in pairs, they all received the same treatment. As many as 300 people arrived, like lost buffalo calves, and all were transformed into Buddha images. The herdsman's young son gained the eight great cities. From his, from his testicles came Kechari Siddhi. From his penis, Vajra, came the nectar that transmutes base metal to gold. From his lower gate, anus, came the ambrosia of deathlessness. And from his eyes came the power of flight, and so on. He became famous throughout the land, and the king of Champa and many buffalo folks came to pay respect. The king had great faith in him and built a temple for him and his parents, and a larger temple for the 300 smaller images. He became known as Dumapa. This temple became a popular power place for the practice of sadhana, and it is said that when the minds of the yogins meditating there became bedeviled by intractable evil thoughts, they were beaten or otherwise chastised by the images. Dumapa quickly attained magical powers, but he remains there still, awaiting the coming of Maitreya, the Buddha of loving kindness, whereupon he will work for all mankind. Sadhana. Unlike any other legend amongst the 84, Charparipa's legend is evidently an accretion of anecdotes that became associated with an unnamed power place. If we ignore the mention of Magadha, the legend's internal evidence supports the identification of Charbaripa with Charpati, the Natsida, one of the nine founding fathers of the Nat lineages, and one of the 12 disciples of the 12 original Kapalika Gurus. In our legend, the king of Champaka, would be King Sahila of Chamba in Himachal Pradesh. A Chamba chronicle mentions Charpati as a contemporary and guru of the 10th century king. The buffalo herdsmen would be the Gujars who have wintered in Chamba with large buffalo herds. From time immemorial, like Goraksha and Meena, Chambaripa Charpati or his disciple Dumapa only attained mundane siddhi. The description of the boy's attainment is in the terminology of the Nath tradition, although the relation between the siddhis and their anatomical places of origin is not clear. Kechari Mudra, which produces Kechari Siddhi, involves turning the tongue up and back into the hollow above the throat, where a channel that brings Soma or Amrita from the moon at the Sahasra chakra on the crown of the head has its exit, and fixing concentration of sight at the space between the eyebrows where the third eye has its location in the subtle body. In the most in this most confused of legends, it is clear that the boy attained the siddhis, but it is not clear who is named Dumapa, or if it is not the boy, Dumapa could be Charbaripa, who brought the petrified people together under one roof. One edition of the legends has Dumapa the Gatherer, Duma with Ma are two disciples of Kanapa, while Charbaripa is Kanhapa's disciple. Further, it may have been either Charbaripa or Dumapa who was to await Maitreya before practicing the Bodhisattva vow. The siddhi of petrification, which allows a guru to transform a previously worldly person into a yogin, sitting as still as a rock for long periods of time, is particularly relevant in the Nath tradition, where Hatha Yoga demands such practice. But Tibetan lamas also certainly have this power to freeze their devotees in meditation. Thus, meditation in the Guru's presence is sought after eagerly. One text explains the metaphor by the statement, he, he entered the Buddha's self-existent Vajra mode of being. Historiography. Siddha number 64 is variously called Charbaripa, Javari, Chaparipa, Chavaripa, Chapalipa, Charpati. If he can be identified with Charpati, his guru was Jalandhara and his disciples Minapa, Kukuripa, and Kadgapa. If Charbaripa was Javari, the only information we have is that he was a disciple of one of Kanapa's disciples, or of Kanapa himself. In the first case, he would have lived at the end of the ninth and beginning of the 10th century. In the second case, he would have lived in the ninth or 10th century. The root of Charbaripa is probably Charpata, meaning air. Thus the case for Charpati being the correct form of the name is strengthened. So here we have one of many stories that connect the Kapalika tradition, um, the Nat Yogi Agor um, tradition, with the Vajrayana Mahasiddhas and the Vajrayana Buddhist tradition, which became known as Sahaja Jnana in ancient times. So that's all for today. This is just a little check to see how things work with the new microphone here and everything. So everyone take care. Jaya Bodhut. Jaya